Hello, I'm the Miami Autism Dad Victor Antunez, the Inclusive Mind Realtor, and this is the Autism Podcast at Miami's Community Newspapers. Today I'm with Denise Elizondo, Director of Catching Up Therapy. Denise, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. We met a few months ago at your center, which is between Bird Road and Miller around 72nd Avenue.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool little nook there of different shops that are in there.
Yeah. There's lots of different warehouses there and
architects and interior design.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. Nice area. And by the Palmetto, so super easy access there.
Correct.
Okay. So the center is called Catching Up Therapy, and there's a little bit of history behind that name. Go ahead and talk about the history.
Yes. So the center was originally created by another person named Jerry Perez, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. And his center used to be called Catching Up. Once he passed, I ended up purchasing the business, and we wanted to maintain the name in his honor, so we called it Catching Up Therapy. And his, the reason why it's called Catching Up is because his whole goal and vision was to help children with special needs catch up. So that's why we maintain the name as well.
Cool. Let me ask you about that word therapy. Because like when I think of my daughter and then I think of my typical little boy, like they both get extra tutoring at home.
Right.
And I don't call my boys extra tutoring like therapy. I just call it tutoring. And I kind of feel like that's a loaded word, therapy. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. So I think that what differentiates it is therapy is generally something that's provided by a skilled person.
Well, I mean, but a tutor's skilled, right?
A tutor is skilled, right? So this is usually it's someone that has kind of the qualifications, right, to provide a specific service. So in my case, I'm a speech language pathologist. So I'm a speech therapist because I can provide, that type of therapy based on the amount of education that I've received.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And you guys use speech, OT, behavior, and feeding.
Yes. And we also offer tutoring. We also offer social skills programs on Saturdays. And what else? We do a lot. We're also we open our center for different community events as well. So yeah, we do a little bit of everything.
It's interesting about the feeding and then also the social stuff on Saturdays. But and I've been reading lately about group feeding being super effective. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it is. It's such a powerful thing when you have children that really do struggle when it comes to eating, whether it's, because they're picky eaters or there's something else going on, maybe a traumatic event where they choked and they had a choking episode and that's causing, this difficulty and this fear of feeding. But when they're around other children that are also kind of going through similar experiences, they are able to kind of vibe off of one another. And they're seeing another child eat that maybe in turn will make them want to eat and feel a little bit more comfortable in doing so.
Speaking of feeding, we see a lot of obesity.
Yeah.
In just the disability world in general.
Right.
Actually, with all kids nowadays, I'm seeing a lot of obesity.
Yeah.
So where do you fall on the types of foods the kids are eating nowadays?
So nutrition really is everything. They say your gut is I think they call it your second brain. Yeah. So it is so important that the foods that children are eating, that they are, that they are vegetables, that they are balanced meals, that, they have protein, that they are eating vegetables versus all of these highly processed foods that can actually make them really tired and maybe not want to do their therapy sessions or participate in tutoring because they're just exhausted from the food that they've just consumed.
Talking about being tired, I remember when I was a kid, nutritional knowledge was much less than it is now.
Right.
Sometime about the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
And I remember my mom giving us what is that Frosted Flakes, which is
full of sugar.
It's all sugar. Yeah. And then you get to school and you just fall asleep.
Yeah.
But we didn't put two and two together.
Yeah.
So it's super important what the kids are eating.
It is. I was just having this conversation with a mom who she said we should host actually a an event here at the center talking about the importance of nutrition and what it is that our kids are eating nowadays, because it really does make a difference.
Yeah. I saw there's a former head of the FDA talking about with these highly processed foods. Even if you look at the label, and this is the guy from the FDA, he says, you still don't know what's in there.
Right.
Even looking at the label, when it's highly processed, you don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
And I went to an open house for my boy who was neurotypical. So some parents started asking about the foods. And they said, oh, yeah, we got great food, chicken McNuggets. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
You ever seen chicken McNuggets being made?
I have.
It's horrible.
Yes.
It's horrible. And so it's like, I
know. And like you said, even though it says that this is what's in it,
you don't know.
We don't really know that, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the different kinds of therapies you guys are offering. So the speech, I get it. Occupational therapy, behavior feeding. So, and I ask it all the time and I get kind of different answers. I'm still like a little bit like hazy. OT and behavior. What exactly is the difference?
Yeah. So behavioral therapy works on the behavior of a child, right? So for example, if a child is, let's say anytime that you present a worksheet to a child and they have a meltdown, right? Because they're maybe aversive to any sort of tabletop activities or any worksheets that are presented to them. A behavioral therapist is going to come in. They're going to observe the situation, what's happening before the child sits down at the table to complete the work, what's happening during the child, while the child is completing the work, and what's happening after. So that behavioral therapist is going to come in and they're going to create a different process so that when that child does go to sit down and has to do work, they're not so aversive to doing the work. Where maybe instead of doing 10 questions or 10 answering 10 questions from a worksheet, maybe they're only going to answer 5 questions and then they're going to get a break. And then they're going to come back, because maybe by doing that, that's going to lessen the tension, right? And it's going to change that experience for the child. They're going to work towards maybe getting to watch 2 minutes out of a YouTube video, right? Once they've completed those 5 questions. So that's the difference. So that's what behavioral therapy does.
Okay.
When it comes to occupational therapy, they're looking at fine motor and gross motor skills.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So how are they holding a pencil? How are they writing?
Is that called executive function? Or is that
that's a little bit different,
okay.
But that is actually something else that they work on. But occupational therapists are also looking at how does a child work on their activities of daily living. How are they getting dressed? How are they tying their shoes? Are they able to zipper up their jacket? Are they able to use utensils correctly to be able to cut their food? So that is the difference between the two disciplines.
You just described some higher functioning kids, because like my daughter's not going to tie her shoes, not going to dress herself. She can feed herself like she loves popcorn. Popcorn all day long. But she's not at utensils yet.
Yeah. So occupational therapy would help with teaching her how to hold those utensils. And a lot of times what I see our occupational therapists do is they'll actually utilize Play-Doh to help them achieve those skills. So what they'll do is they'll roll the Play-Doh into a ball, and then using a fork and a knife, they'll have them cut the Play-Doh, because that's a little bit easier than cutting maybe a piece of protein that's going to be harder, to use a knife with to cut. So they'll start there, and then eventually they'll start working towards foods and being able to cut those foods.
It's interesting. I've heard about kids, like autistic kids, having not enough hand strength. That's not been my experience, because my daughter will do handstands and all sorts of stuff.
Sure.
She's plenty of hand strength. It's just a matter of interest. If she's not, you put something in her hand, she's not interested, just drop it.
Right.
And people, I think, confuse that with not being strong. But no, she's really strong. She's 2 years older than her brother, and they wrestle. And
she can
kick his butt, so she's plenty strong. So it's just a matter of interest.
Exactly. And then it's how you're presenting it, right? So if you're presenting the activity in a really fun and engaging way, then you're going to get the buy-in from the child that's going to say, oh, what are you doing over there? That seems interesting. Let me try that. I want to do it too.
Okay. And you mentioned the tabletop, like the tabletop aversion.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that one before. Is that common?
Yes, it is. We actually have quite a few children that we work with where anytime, any sort of tabletop activity, whether it's playing with Play-Doh or playing with stickers or doing a worksheet, the moment that they have to sit at a table, they automatically push away. They'll hide under the table because they associate a table with having to do work.
Yeah, and be forced to work.
Right.
Which, like, and I'll use my daughter as an example.
Mm-hmm.
We had to force her because people are like, oh, you shouldn't force kids. But like my daughter, if you don't force her, she would literally just go ball up in a corner and do nothing. So I don't.
Right.
So yeah, that's with some kids.
Correct.
You cannot have to force them. Some kids you have to, just won't do anything.
Right. Yeah. I know sometimes you have to, make difficult decisions as parents, right? Because in the end, it's for their well-being.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and I'm humble about it because, over the years, my wife and I have sought, obviously a lot of professional opinions.
Of course.
Like early on with my daughter's, experience, we had a therapist ask, okay, bring me a picture of her playroom.
Mm.
Cool. So we bring her, and look, we bought these foam tiles. They're like puzzle pieces, and there's like several colors to a pack, and it had like a quilt.
Right.
And he sees that. He's like, no, you can't do that. Because it'd be like red, yellow, green, blue. And I thought that looked really cool. He's like, no, it's too much for her. So what we did is we put all the blues in one corner and then the greens. And so like we sought out help and like, because if it wasn't me, it would have just stayed that way forever.
Right.
And he told us, no, that's not good for her.
Yeah, because that's too visually stimulating for her.
Too visually stimulating.
Mm-hmm.
And then, back to the behavioral therapy.
Yes.
When a lot of people think that it all comes down to compliance. But it's not a matter of compliance. It's a matter of like you got to force kids sometimes to do things that they don't want to do.
Right. So exactly. So that's why. And you want them to be happy when they're doing it also, right? Like you don't want a child to be upset and miserable, for the 10 minutes that they have to sit at the table. You don't want that. You want them to be happy, to be willing to participate in whatever activity is being presented to them. So that's why behavioral therapy is just so important because it helps us kind of bridge that gap when there are situations that are difficult for a child and helping them work through it and finding that, it's okay. You're going to be safe and we can get through this together.
And a lot of it that I've seen over the years with different people that have worked with my daughter is that you can be great at what you do. You have two people that are equally good.
Yep.
But she'll just connect with somebody and not with somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it too.
Exactly. And that's what they say now. It's connection first. It really matters. It really does. And that's why, we're at my center, we always value that. I'm always checking and making sure that it's working not only for the therapist, but for the child and the family as well, because it's true. It's connection first.
And you'll switch people up, right?
Absolutely.
They're not connecting. You have to.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. We do that. Yeah.
I was, Dr. Michael Alessandri at my Autism Dads group, he was talking about that they had done a multi-year $1 million study on what is the best kind of therapy, whether it be speech, OT, behavior, feeding for these kids. And he said at the end of the day, the X factor was? It was the individual therapist. And so his point was, and it's funny because I'm in real estate and he brought it, and I'd already thought about this, but then he's like, so don't go buying a house because it's next door to this therapy center because it might be great for you this year. And then next year they switch up the teacher or whatever, and then it's not so great.
Right.
And then,
I agree. I mean, and I'm the first to say when we have families that come seek our services and they're looking for a specific treatment or a specific certification that a therapist needs to have in order to see their child. And if we don't have those specific, if we're not able to fulfill the needs that that parent is looking for their child, I'm the first to say we are not the right fit, but I will refer you to other centers that maybe are a better fit for you. Because at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about the child. And it's about doing the right thing for the child.
At the same time though, like, there's expectations because when I go to like the Autism Dads group I'm in, at the meetings that we have or in our WhatsApp group, people are always putting in like asking, hey, but this therapy, that therapy. Someone's like, well, it worked for my kid. Oh, it didn't work for my kid. So I'm sure you get parents that come in and we all want the best for our kids.
Right.
But they might be coming in with some kind of off the wall therapy. Like, hey, that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
How do you like work expectations with parents?
I know. I think it's just being very honest and upfront with them and just educating them, letting them know that, hey, this is the type of therapy that we do. It's evidence-based. So there is years and years of research that's been done. And this is why we're utilizing these specific techniques, or this is why we're doing things the way that we're doing it, because we know that there's evidence to support our actions, right? So I think it's that. It's just being honest and upfront and letting them know that, this is what we can do here at our center. If this is not a good fit for you, then we completely understand. And, it's okay. It's okay to move on and seek services elsewhere. That's fine too.
Yeah. Talking about being a good fit, I have a friend whose boy goes to a certain school, swears by that school, loves that school. That school changed because his boy's also got some physical problems.
Okay.
He's like, that school just changed my boy's life. And then a few months later, I'm talking to mom. She's like, I hate that school. My kid didn't like it.
Yep.
And it's like, it just, you can have the same school and just totally different, experiences.
Yeah. And I've had a similar situation with 3 different families that see us where, 2 families did not like the school that their child started at. And then I have another family that loves the school and talks highly. So it's preference, it's connection, right?
It could be the BCBA or RBT that your kid got, they just didn't connect for whatever reason.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of, finding the right fit and what works for your family.
Yeah. Now, earlier we were talking and you said that like an X factor is intensity.
Yes.
Because intensity can cut both ways, maybe a positive or a negative.
Right.
So you meant it in a positive way.
Yes.
So unpack that for me.
Yeah. So when it comes to therapy, when it comes to speech therapy, behavioral therapy, occupational therapy, intensity really does matter, because I always kind of give this analogy of when you're learning to ride a bike, right? The more you do it,
in a short time frame.
Right.
That's what you mean by intensity.
Exactly. Then the sooner you're going to learn how to ride your bike and master that skill of riding a bike. The same comes to therapy. The more that you do therapy, the sooner you're going to see progress and you're going to see changes within your child. So that's what I mean by intensity, is the more we do something when it comes to therapy, the sooner we'll see better outcomes.
Now, I had another BCBA on the show, and she was saying that she didn't agree with the 40-hour rule for ABA.
Yep.
Where do you stand on that?
I agree. The way that we do things at our center, since we do offer ABA, is, I should say I'm very lucky to have a wonderful BCBA. And what she does is she only requests the amount that she feels that a child actually needs. And we also talk to the parents as well. So when we make these decisions on when it comes to how many hours their child needs, we're very, very, we're the first to kind of go and ask the parents, this is what we'd like to recommend. Do you agree with this? If you don't, tell us why, so that we can understand your perspective. And if you do, then great, we're on the same track.
Yeah. And then also like with the hours, like with parents, there's also the reality of like, maybe you say your kid needs 60 hours. Well, I can't do 60 hours.
Right.
Because
it's just,
can't do it. So how do you like help like parents get past like the bad parent thing?
I mean, it's through education. It's helping them become informed and understanding, that it's just not possible. Like even 60 hours of therapy.
Or even 40 hours. That's a full-time job.
Right. It is. So, and that's why even though we may request 40 hours of therapy, it doesn't mean that we're necessarily giving the child 40 hours, because like you said, life goes on.
You have other kids, you got work.
Exactly. So it's impossible to reach that, that magnitude of hours.
And if you can't, it's just, you shouldn't feel like a bad person or a bad parent.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Now, it's interesting about the intensity because, I'm online reading articles and, from autistic people. And obviously the people you're going to read online are going to be higher functioning people. Otherwise, they wouldn't be writing op-eds online. And I think that it's important for parents of lower functioning kids like myself to take a lot of that with a grain of salt, because you're going to have a very different experience than my daughter, who can't clothe herself, is still not like toilet trained at night, you know. So like what I hear from these people, and I'm not saying that their experience is wrong, and maybe you can unpack it, and maybe it's true that they complain when they get older that when they were younger, they were forced to do things like ABA, what have you, and they kind of like, and they're bitter about it,
Right.
which is an authentic feeling.
Yes.
So you have to you gotta
I know. It's how do you balance that? Yeah. I know that is difficult, I would say, for, like you said, a higher functioning child or an adult at this point that had to go through all of that. But I do feel that, even though maybe not everything was rainbows and butterflies and roses, but there has to also be positive out of that, because I do believe that therapy does help. It really does. And that is why they're at the point that they are now, because of all of the effort that parents put into taking them to therapy, all the stuff that parents do behind the scenes with supporting their child at home and doing everything that us therapists are doing, and then they're carrying that over at home. So I do think that, even though it's hard, I do feel that the hard outweighs the benefits, right? And what and how they're going to turn out in the end.
Yeah. And then even for like neurotypicals, when you think about your own childhood,
right?
Your parents forced you to do some things.
Right.
You didn't want to do them.
Right.
And you're grateful now.
Exactly. Like I remember I had to go to tutoring when I was younger, and my parents would take me, and they paid all this money for me, to have that extra support, which I'm eternally grateful
At the
for.
time, you hated it, I'm sure.
Exactly. It was, complaining in the car on the way there, but
before, during, after.
Exactly. But then now it's, I'm
grateful.
I'm where I am today because of that. So yeah, that's why I say I feel like there is positive in the end.
Yeah. And I think that often that when we look at our autistic kids who are maybe like a level 2 or more profoundly affected, we think that they're different from other kids. And somewhere deep inside, like I had a guy on, he's a foster dad.
Okay.
He's fostered over 200 kids.
Wow.
He's adopted 8, and they were all autistic. So the boy he's got now that's still in the house, because they're not all in the house with him right now, it'd be too many kids. But the kid who's in the house with him now, he's like, at the end of the day, you always got to remember, because of his current behavior, he's a teenager. And teenagers are mischievous.
Exactly. Exactly.
You think they're different because they're autistic, but they are different. But the mischief, it's still age appropriate. Correct. They're doing things that you don't want to do.
Correct.
And he's having to force that boy to do or not do things. Just because he's autistic doesn't mean you can't, you don't,
That's right.
Oh, well, he's
you
autistic.
shouldn't treat him differently.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that statement.
Yeah. Something I also read with these kids is that always assume competence. That at around my daughter, I talk to her like I talk to my boy.
Good.
Because I have to just assume that somewhere deep inside, she's hearing me.
Yeah.
And I can't treat her different.
I know. That's what myself and all of my therapists, we always say the same thing. We're like, they are so smart. They know a lot more than you think. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe some don't, but you just assume because you don't know at what level they're at.
Right. Right.
And just because they're nonverbal, what have you, like stuff's getting in. Because my daughter, she'll repeat something like, where did she get that?
Yeah. Where'd you hear that from?
My little boy too.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I want to go back to the feeding because thankfully my daughter, she used to be really hard to feed.
Okay.
And my wife is just like a general. She was just militant about feeding that girl. And so she's ended up not being a picky eater.
Good.
So when you get your picky eaters, how are you addressing that?
Yeah.
That's a big problem with a lot of parents. Yes.
So we work with a lot of kiddos that are picky eaters. And what I always tell parents, first and foremost, is that it's a long process when it comes to feeding, right? It's not something that's going to, you're going to snap your fingers and it's going to get better overnight. It's a long process. So I always say, just stick with it. Okay. Don't get discouraged. let's acknowledge the little milestones that we're meeting along the way. But when it comes to feeding therapy, the most important thing is that you have to make it fun. Feeding is if you think about feeding and when we eat, it's supposed to be social. Right? It's supposed to be a social moment, social experience. So you need to make the same thing for these kiddos. You want feeding to be fun, you want to be happy. You want to exert those emotions when you're eating. So it's all about playing. I tell the parents, make sure that you're not dressing them in their best.
Gamify it. Yeah. Yeah, right. So if they get it, if they're wearing it, it's okay. You're not upset with them.
Exactly, because we need to touch our food. We need to feel it. We need to smell it. We need to taste it in order to be able to desensitize whatever aversions they're having at the moment as to why they're not wanting to eat the food. So you just need to make it fun. You need to play with food. Like I said, we got to touch it. Food touches all of our senses, looking at it visually. Smell,
yes.
touch,
the texture
taste.
in your mouth.
Yep. Yeah. So we need to touch on all of those senses, but we have to do it in a way that's fun and engaging for a child so that food doesn't become scary anymore. It becomes something that I actually am going to enjoy. And I'm going to enjoy sitting at a table and I'm going to enjoy eating my food. Right.
Speaking of fun, I was looking for a martial arts school for my boy. So I find this website and the sensei, whatever he calls himself, he's got like a list of things for the parents to do and not to do. And he tells the parents, after a day of training, don't ask them what they learned. Ask them if they had fun. Because if they have fun, they're going to come back.
Correct.
And I was like, that applies to everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Especially when it comes to feeding, where it's already something so hard for them.
For some kids, it could be very stressful.
Right. That you want it to be fun. You want them to come in and I always have the kiddos kind of pick what they want to eat next. So I'll say to them, okay, so what do you want to try next? Or even if we do try something new, I'll say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, would we try it again? Like, where are we? Like, are we at a 5 where maybe we'll try it again? Yes. Okay, great. I'll take that. Okay. Because to me, that's a win. Right? So
let me ask you, are there things, obviously I know there's an answer to this, but things that parents are doing at home that are unintentionally making feeding harder?
I would say putting a lot of pressure on the feeding, because as a parent, feeding becomes very stressful, right? Because it's nutrition. You need your child to eat, and especially when they're young, because that's what develops their brain, right? It helps them grow. So that feeding just becomes very, very stressful at home. So you just don't want your energy on you being stressed as a parent to then rub off on your child. So you do need to be very calm, cool, collected is what I like to tell parents. And I always tell parents, meet your child where they're at, okay, when it comes to feeding. So, if you're giving them something new, maybe just telling them to smell it 5 times.
Yeah, you're right. Or even just put it on the plate so they can
just put it on the
look
plate.
At it.
Exactly. So you want to take these baby steps to be able to tackle that, because it is so stressful. And I understand you want your child to eat, and when they don't want to eat, that puts a lot of pressure on you as a parent to say, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? What am I doing wrong? How do I fix this? And it's like, okay, well, we're going to tackle this. Just meet your child where they're at when it comes to feeding.
And because you just said fix, that might even be a very strong word, like overly strong. Because, like eating habits, nothing's broken.
Right.
Just, maybe some are better than others.
Exactly. So let's adapt. Yeah.
That's overcome.
Yes.
All right. So I just got the 2-minute warning. Time flies.
Yes.
So I've got a last few questions I want to ask you before we sign off. Let me turn to my last page here. Of course, I'm going to have a hard time. All right. So one word that defines effective therapy.
So we kind of touched about this earlier, but intensity. That would be my one word.
And intensity, again, just being like condensed time. Like instead of 10 minutes for 5 days, maybe an hour for 1 day.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. One myth about early intervention that needs to disappear.
that it's not effective. So early intervention is probably one of the most powerful things that a parent can do for their child, just because truly early intervention can change the trajectory for a child's life. So it's very powerful. Seek the services if you're able to receive them. Don't be afraid to do it. It's going to pay off in the end.
Yeah. You know, the way that I look or frame the early years, it's high leverage years.
Yes.
The younger they are, the more high leverage you get.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then also, like, in terms, like, I've talked to parents who have told me that their kid's pediatrician has told them, oh, hold off getting an evaluation. Like, hold off for what?
Right.
Because an evaluation is not invasive.
No.
Not like having brain surgery.
Correct.
If you're wrong, you're wrong.
Right.
And the kid won't remember. The other thing just was another visit to another doctor.
Absolutely.
There's no stigma there.
Right. And therapy in the end is not going to hinder your child in any way, shape, or form. On the contrary, it's going to help them.
It's going to help them. Yeah. And again, and if you're wrong, you're wrong.
Right.
If you're right, you're right.
But it's
There's
better
no
to
downside.
be proactive than reactive.
Yeah. And then for parents who are maybe don't know, 0 to 3 is early steps.
Mm-hmm.
3 to 5 is fiddlers. After that is public schools. You can get your evals.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all free because the diagnosis is different. That costs a lot of money. But the evals, which is what you need for an IEP, you don't need a diagnosis for an IEP.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And by the way, and I told you earlier, I had my daughter's eval at Fiddler's and it was a wonderful experience.
Right.
It wasn't stressful. They were super nice, very caring. And so it's like a win all the way around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. One overlooked skill that matters more than most skills. And again, I'm just looking like high leverage stuff because everything's important.
Sure. So I would say definitely socialization. If I had to pick one, looking to see how your child is socializing with their peers, with adults, with anyone that's in their inner circle. So I would say definitely socialization. I think that's so important.
You know, and going back to the fun, I think that's a goal for the parents because it's on us to make it fun.
Yes.
It's not on them to have fun.
Right.
It's on us to make it fun.
Yep.
Yeah, so it cuts both ways.
Even with therapy, I always say it's not about the toy that you're using. It's about how fun you make that toy.
Yeah.
Right? To keep the child engaged, for them to want to come back and play with you.
I mean, you can pick up a stick or a rock and make that fun.
Absolutely. Trust me, I've done that before. And yes. Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. One thing parents should stop blaming themselves for.
Not doing enough.
Yeah.
Not doing enough, because you are doing enough. And even just you seeking the services, that shows that you're doing your best and you are trying to help your child, So I think give yourself some grace because you are doing everything that you can for your child.
And I think that this is especially applies to single parents because like my wife and I, we tag team it. So we can get a lot done. Right. But if you're a single parent, it just is what it is. Don't beat yourself up.
Right. And we're very understanding. We have families that can only come to us once a week, and that's okay. I'd rather you come once a week than not at all. So,
because some people will say, well, if one's not going to work, I just won't even go. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Last question. Finish the sentence. Kids thrive when?
They're having fun.
And I want to add one more question. Families thrive when?
They have the support behind them.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of support out there. I think it's important for families to not feel alone, because challenging a world with a child with special needs can be very isolating. It can be very scary. And, I want them to know that doesn't have to be the case for them, that there is an amazing community here in Miami that
big community
really, really does support and help them and their child thrive,
Yeah. And I'm going to throw it out there because we're talking about it now. Like in terms of stuff that's out there, there's CARD, parent to parent, advocacy network. There's you, there's me. And I'm telling people listening now, if you have any questions, reach out to me.
Yes.
Or to you.
Absolutely.
I'm helping people all the time, and I'm so happy to do it because I'm grateful I'm in a position now because I've learned so much. I can help people.
Yeah.
And I'm not the expert on autism, but I'm kind of like I am like the yellow pages for services that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, you have a wonderful guide that you provide to families that just has a plethora of resources.
Yeah, and there's a plethora.
Yeah.
Plethora. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of stuff in Miami County, and a lot of it's free.
Right.
People don't realize that. If you get connected, like even the dads group I go to, what a great resource that's been for me.
Correct. Yeah. I know. And they even have, Card even has support groups for siblings.
For teens, for adults with autism.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's so much out there.
Yes.
It's just, getting connected with the right people to help guide you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Denise, this has been a great conversation.
Absolutely. I wish we had more time.
Yeah, me too. All right. Let's turn to the camera. We'll sign off. So this has been the Autism Podcast with Denise Elizondo of Catching Up Therapy. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.